Welcome again, everyone. So this is actually our first delivery of this training topic on looking at environmental considerations of associated gas processing and treatment. And we will have 3 half-day sessions starting today until Friday. So let's continue to look at an overview of the course. So let me just start. For those of you who are not familiar with our collaboration with Norway, we have had a collaboration for the last 5 years, 6 years now. And the idea is really to deliver capacity building trainings to enhance capacities in governments in OFD supported countries, most of which are based in Africa. But we also have had countries in Asia, Middle East, and Latin America. And the idea is to really enhance environmental governance and management, especially in the oil and gas sector, with the aim of reducing environmental risks, including oil spills or other types of pollution associated with petroleum development. So this training is really part of our effort to make such content and knowledge available to as wide a public as possible, especially to our government partners, because such training is often located only in specialized agencies or in the private sector. So our idea is we want to disseminate knowledge and skills transfer as widely as possible in countries and especially in governments. So some of the things that we provide under this partnership is direct technical assistance, for example, developing guidelines. Here you see our work in Iraq, but we also have provided direct technical assistance in Somalia, for example, undertaking environmental, legal, and policy review, etc. And we undertake institutional capacity needs assessment as well, which provides a roadmap for governments on what their priority capacity gaps may be in this topic. So this just gives you an idea of the trainings that we have been delivering over the last 5-6 years. And some of you are in this training because you have participated in some of our trainings before. So welcome back again. Nice to see everyone. If you are not yet part of our global network on environment and oil and gas, by participating in this training, we are already including you as part of our global network. And with that, you will receive a monthly newsletter so that the idea is that we continue to enhance our knowledge sharing about these topics. And the idea is to help you enhance your work in your respective countries. So if you're not part of LinkedIn yet, maybe this is a good time to join LinkedIn, and you can find us on LinkedIn under the Global Network on Environment and Oil and Gas. And we have ongoing a global webinar series this year, and this year we focus specifically on environmental considerations related to oil spill preparedness and response. So we delivered the first webinar in 24th of February, and the next one is in the 24th of May. So you're not too late. You can still register using this link. I'll ask Bernice to type the link to register for this webinar if you're interested. The second one will look at environmental sensitive mapping for oil spill preparedness and response. So we hope to see you there. So coming back to this course, what are we going to cover? So as you see, we have a lot of points to cover. The idea is to enhance your knowledge about what associated gas is and its processing and treatment. And why is it relevant for promoting sound environmental management? We will look at the possible waste streams that are generated, but you will also hear from SM that there's no such thing as waste. This is always SM's main line, that, different, if you plan and design your facilities well, you can utilize a lot of what we would have considered potential waste streams from associated gas processing and treatment. Of course, then we look at potential impacts on public health and safety as well when we're looking at associated gas. We will also cover topics related to what are some of the best available technologies to prevent or mitigate the environmental and public health impacts. And we'll look at some country examples. And as I said, SM is really the best person to have to address some of these topics, because he works also with private sector and knows the most current technologies available. We'll talk about some basic principles of contingency planning and how to ensure that you ensure some safety procedures on site. And then finally, we will cover discussion related to environmental governance and regulatory practice related to gas processing and treatment. So how are we going to deliver this course? We will have presentations, some case examples. We wanted to do some group work exercises, but let's see how we manage this. We can do it also individually, which is also fine. And then we will have like group discussions. Everyone who has registered should have received an email from Bernice giving you instructions or description of our exercises with accompanying reference documents. So if you have not received this email, which describes the exercises that will go along with the training and the reference documents, please send her a message through the chat box, okay? Say, I didn't receive it, please send it to me, and give your email so she can forward that to you now. Now we will also do individual knowledge assessments. So this is just to say that you should have already completed the baseline knowledge assessment prior to this training, and we will do a final knowledge assessment at the end. So, and these are prerequisites to receiving the course certificate of completion from UNEP. So if you don't have the baseline knowledge assessment done, we encourage you to do so. And I'll ask Bernice again to put in the chat box the link to the baseline knowledge assessment if you haven't done it yet. Okay. And then we'll try to keep it very interactive. We should have a very informal discussions. You should feel comfortable raising your questions in the chat, or you can raise your hand. Okay. So here is just a snapshot of the rest of the week of our training, day 1, 2, and 3. So you see it here. We'll cover modules 1 today, and then tomorrow 2, and the third day, module 3. And then hopefully we are able to have a good discussion and also address many of your questions. Okay. So just to thank you to all of those who took the training needs assessments. But it seems like many of you had already had some background on this topic. So because when we asked you if you've had previous training on associated gas processing and treatment, it seems like you have had some background, which is good. But at the same time, I just wanted to reiterate that this is an overview course. So this is a basic course on associated gas processing and treatment. So, but of course, we can use the discussion to further deepen your knowledge. If you wished, you can have a discussion, very in-depth discussion with SM. So here it seems indeed the case that people are scoring already quite high in the baseline knowledge assessment, because many of you have had some background on this training. So that's good. So I think, SM, that's something to keep in mind, that perhaps many of our participants already have some basic background and they're prepared to go further if they wish. And this just gives you an idea of what people, based on our course outline, what people are most interested in. And it looks like really on the regulatory side, on government regulations and practice, which is good, because we'll touch on that on day 3, and we will have a presentation from SM, but also from the Norwegian Environment Agency. And then, of course, we will ask you about your experience in your country as well. And many people are interested on the best available technologies on that, and some of the safety principles that we need to put in place. Let me just ask people to stay on mute, so there's no background noise for everyone. Thank you. So again, just sort of like some of the basic principles and of our online training. As you know, I'm sure many of you are now very comfortable and well-versed in the online training. We will take the questions one by one. So we'll ask you to raise your hand, and then you can unmute yourself. But most of the time, if you're not speaking, if you can keep yourself muted, and then it will help organize our discussion. Okay. And then, of course, we're happy to see you. So turn on your video especially when you're speaking. Introduce yourself and your institution, which would be great. We will take some breaks in between, of course, this afternoon. And then just a final note about receiving the course certificates. As I mentioned, it will involve individuals completing the baseline and final knowledge assessment, but also be in attendance for all 3 days. So we have Taylor and Bernice keeping track of our participants' attendance list. So that will also be part of the requirement for receiving the UNEP course certificate. So we will end today by a few reflections, either individually or team reflections. So we'll come back to this as a way to help us kind of consolidate our knowledge for today and also plan ahead for next steps. Okay. I think that's all I had to share for today. Yes. Yes. Okay. Let me stop sharing. Come back to you online. Okay. So are there any questions? So Taylor and Bernice, just help me with keeping track of people with their raised hands if I don't see them right away, and flag it to me, please. Are there any questions with what I presented and what we're going to cover today? I see that Mr. Francisco Bernardo has his hand up. So if you, when you take the floor, please introduce yourself, your institution and country, and then ask your question. Thank you. Francisco, please go ahead.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah. My name is Francisco Bernardo from Angola. I work for INPG, the petroleum agency in Angola. So, I didn't get the point. You said that we should ask Bernice to send us an email. Would you please make me understood about this?
Yes. So Bernice sent to all the registered participants a copy of the training program and a copy of the exercises that we will undertake for the next 3 days, and reference documents. So it should have gone to your email. If you didn't receive these documents, please write to Bernice. Bernice, can you please put on the chat your email?
Okay.
And then they can write to you. And there are some people saying that they didn't receive the email. So if you can just resend everything, the training program, the exercises and reference documents, then that would be good. So just, you know, send your, Bernice, type your email on the chat so that people can email you if they didn't receive the messages. Okay. And then can I also ask you to please put the link to the baseline knowledge assessment. So that those who, you've done it already. Okay, yes. Thank you. Excellent. Okay. Is there anything else that you have a question about in terms of our organization and logistics? Anybody else has a question? Okay, I think we can continue then with our program. So as I said, to start us off today, Essam will start now on module 1, which is really giving an overview of associated gas, its processing and treatment. So Essam, please go ahead.
Yes, please. Thank you. And let me share my screen here. Okay. Okay, Bernice, help me out, please, if you don't mind, with the screen. Can you see it?
Yes, but not in presentation mode.
Not in presentation mode. Okay. Okay, so let me go back here and do the presentation mode. Okay, so should see it by now, I believe. Okay, so I go here. Here. Okay, no. So I can see it in presentation mode. I don't know why we cannot see it at
yes.
your.
So now share. You haven't shared, that's why we cannot see. So if you can see it in presentation mode, then you can share now.
Okay, let me put it in presentation mode.
Okay.
Okay, and I think should be shared by now.
Share your screen again.
I will.
Reshare your screen. There you go.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay, let me go back to the file. Okay, so yeah, we will be talking today about an overview about the processing and treatment of associated gas. And the term associated gas, as you all may know by now, is very well known to everybody. I believe it is actually identified in several publications as the gas produced as a byproduct, which I don't like, to be honest. Byproduct means something that is not favorable. But anyways, the official definition is a byproduct of crude oil production. So basically, the associated gas is somehow a natural gas that does exist along with the oil field. And the oil formation is very well known to everybody here. At the top of that oil, you will have gas blanket. This gas blanket is natural gas, yes, but it is coming along with the oil itself. The associated gas reserves are typically developed to produce crude oil. So if you want to get into your oil, you have to find a way to manage the gas blanket. Now, they normally deal with it in a way that pays for the field development cost. So they manage it in a way that can help offset the cost associated with the field development itself. But there will be some peak levels for the associated gas production, and in years after the actual production, we call it depleting. So the field or the oil well itself will, I mean, the not associated gas coming from the oil well will be depleting, and probably in a few years of production, the associated gas production itself will be declining. Now, in general, associated gas may contain sulfur, water, oil droplets. It requires some capital investment, of course, if the plan was to utilize it. Mainly everybody in the industry looks at this, looks at associated gas as undesired capital investment, which we do not agree with. Actually, it is desired and it can pay back, but there are also major pitfalls for the oil production. The reason behind it is the variation of the field or the oil well pressure. That causes basically some production, I would say, pitfalls and some concerns. The associated gas itself has safety concerns as well. Like, imagine you have a peak in the pressure that is higher than the design capacity, then there will be some safety issues you have to deal with. And of course, the environmental hiccups and the environmental concerns associated with the treatment, with the production, then the treatment of the associated gas. The major issue as well is the unsteady production. So it's not a steady production rate all over the well life. So you can say it is inconsistent intervals for the production itself. Again, it is considered as a byproduct, which makes it unfavorable. And the main and fast and easy thing to do is just flare it. So if you have if you have associated gas with your oil production, you look at the oil production itself as the major process, the major activity. And for the associated gas, it is a byproduct that I don't like. So you know what? Let me go ahead and flare it. Now, of course, we all know about the flaring and the air pollution associated with it. Of course, the way I look at it and the way we look at it in the industry is that you are burning money. This thing has a value. And once you are flaring it, that means basically you are burning money away. Amounts of associated gas may not be adequate for all the solutions available. So in case you want to handle the associated gas, to re-inject it actually in the oil field or the oil well itself, and this is what we call it enhanced oil recovery, it might not be adequate for the re-injection or for the enhanced oil recovery process itself. Now, there are ways around this as well, but this is the general situation. As you may know, there are two types of associated gas. There is the free one, and there is the entrained, or they call it sometimes dissolved. In case of the entrained, which means it is dissolved already with the oil, the production rate of the oil are gonna be unsteady. The pressure, as I said, the enhanced oil recovery process that you have in your well will be facing some hiccups up and down always. Just to give you an example, if you have a pump on your oil well itself, this pump has to be designed in a way that the associated gas, and I'm talking here about the dissolved one, is not going to cause any pressure differences and any cavities for the pump itself. Water content, again, you have the free water and you have the entrained or dissolved water. Now, dissolved water in the oil, along with associated gas, well, we have a major concern here. So if the water is free, that's easy. We can deal with it and we can adjust it. But if the water is entrained, then special considerations in the design and the unit operation selections has to be in place. If we want to start as a step one, at the exploration step, we can identify the presence of associated gas, whether it is entrained or whether it is free. Plus, of course, how far is the water, the free water buckets? I call them normally buckets. How far are they away from the oil itself, or the oil bucket itself, or the oil well itself? So based on that, we can design of course, the drilling, completion, and after that, the process itself. We look at the presence of water and the presence of associated gas as a gift. It is not like as a curse. It's a gift for us to have, and let's handle this gift carefully and deal with it in a way that everybody is actually benefiting from this gift. Back to associated gas. What is the difference between associated gas and natural gas? Well, ultimately, they are both the same, except there will be a little bit of differences when it comes to the impurities, like sulfur, CO2, water, all of those kind of things. And as I identified in the previous screen, we are talking about major impurities like CO2, like, as I said, CO2 is carbon dioxide, sulfur content in terms of H2S, or again, sulfur formation compounds. You will have some water. The issue is basically here having some oil droplets with the associated gas itself. The oil droplets can again cause some hiccups during the production. Now, as I said before, if you design everything from the beginning right, then all of those issues will be a blessing. When we deal with gas, associated gas processing, we are taking the same steps we do for natural gas. As I said, except the amounts that we are dealing with might be a little bit different. The type and the nature of associated gas is basically same as gas, natural gas processing, or natural gas in general development. So if we want to look at natural gas or associated gas processing facility, we look at, and I'm talking here the points behind or after the Christmas tree. And I guess the Christmas tree is the valve that you can see at the surface, and that is where the processing plant will start. So accordingly, we have the first step will be to actually remove any free gas / water and oil droplets. So that can happen in a 2-phase or 3-phase separator, depends on what you have. From there, we move on to the cleanup of the associated gas itself by removing CO2, by removing H2S, And then, of course, the very well famous dehydration unit. After that, you move to the separating the natural gas liquids, liquid petroleum gases, all those kind of C4, C5 and above products. There is a huge market nowadays for natural gas liquid. There is also lots of demand for liquid petroleum gas all over the globe. Back to the first unit in the process itself, we are talking here about mainly about the sulfur and carbon dioxide removal. The sulfur and the carbon dioxide removal unit is also called the sweetening or the amine unit, depends on the terminology you are using in your country. Those are the major, for us, for environmental protections, that will be the major unit to handle. We are removing CO2, we are removing H2S or sulfur from the associated gas as a preparation step for utilizing this associated gas in the next steps. But what are we going to do with the CO2? What are we going to do with the H2S? Are we going to just leave it? Are we going to flare it? Are we going to burn it? All of those questions are coming in place. And I guess this is the major step in environmental hiccups, environmental concerns, mitigation and elimination. I just want to tell everybody nowadays that we do not use minimization, we use elimination. We do not deal with CO2 and H2S as a waste anymore. We deal with them as a revenue generation streams. They have a value and we should actually utilize them in a more profitable way. We don't look at them as byproducts that we do not like. Actually, they are, again, I love to use the term blessings. So those are blessings to be there and we should handle them carefully. If we want to go to the details in the process, I'm not going to go there, but I just want to add one thing here into this gas processing plant block diagram, which is basically any pressure enhancement. So if the oil field or the oil well itself is giving you a low pressure and you need to increase that pressure, remember that we always look at compression. Just add a compressor and let's deal with it. But let's remember that compressors, when the associated gas is not yet cleaned, the compression will be a little bit difficult at this stage. So maybe you can utilize the associated gas itself as an enhanced recovery and as a pressure increase step to the whole processing plant or processing activities. The dehydration unit, as you guys may know, it's H2O water removal. Okay, what are we going to do with the water? Now the water has impurities in it. Shall I just shovel it into the nearest hole that I will dig? Shall I re-inject it in an abandoned oil well? Shall I use it for irrigation? Shall I use it for drinking? Okay, long time ago, we didn't have, I would say, profitable technology. Nowadays, we do. We do have technologies that can even deal with this water and convert it to a usable source of irrigation, for example. Here in Canada and in different countries as well, water is valuable in terms of it has a price, so it's not free. So anything that has a price is a commodity. It's not a waste anymore. Again, water as well as sulfur, as well as CO2, all of those nowadays we are converting them to commodities with a price that we can add to the top of the revenue coming from our oil fields in general, and most importantly, the oil fields that have the associated gas blanket at the top of them. Of course, we do all of this. Like, the question will be, why should I care? Why should I care about the gas and all of those impurities in it? Won't I just push it through the pipeline, send it all the way to the refinery? Then at the refinery, they will take the oil and they will deal with everything else. Why should I care about it before, I would say, upstream the refinery itself? Why should I care about it before I push it in the pipelines? Let me tell you guys that all of those impurities are forbidden to be in the pipeline because they cause lots of environmental concerns coming from the fact that those will cause lots of corrosion, lots of operation. The pipeline itself needs to be powered with pumps. So the oil in the pipeline is not going to fly alone. You have to pump it. That's why you have to have a pump station every so-and-so kilometers or every so-and-so distance. If you push all of those impurities and mainly the associated gas, you will have concerns there. So before the pipeline, everything has to be cleaned to a certain level. Okay, here in Canada again, the company that owns the oil well or the oil field is not the same company that owns the pipeline. And also it is not the same company that owns the refinery. In most of the cases, even if you have one company that owns all of this train or all of this sequence, they deal with the sequence as separate steps. So they will not allow the impurities to go into the pipeline. Plus the refineries, most of them are not actually designed to handle those impurities. So they will ask you to clean it up before they receive it. What will happen if you do not clean it up? Well, basically they will never accept your production, your oil production. So it is very important to look at it as three separate pieces of the puzzle. The first one will be cleanup, the second one will be the pipelines, and the third one will be the refinery, or let me say the further processing for the oil. And again, oil is what we are looking at here, and the associated gas is something that comes with the oil. So everybody is actually looking at the oil as, oh, this is my revenue generation. This is where I can make money. Yes, indeed, but you have some concerns that you need to handle before. And if you can reach a point that those concerns are not waste, they are not unfavorable, and in the contrary, I love them, and I like having those in the whole puzzle or the whole matrix of the oil production. The highest hydrogen sulfide, the highest carbon dioxide concentration will be in the amine unit. And by the way, the amine unit is the first unit in the associated gas processing facility that will absorb and that needs to deal with all of the garbage coming with the associated gas. Again, they call it garbage. We don't call it garbage. We call it commodity. But I am just using the norm as of now. Later on in the course, we will stop using all of those terminology and deal with the commodities things. So hydrogen sulfide, carbon dioxide, as I said, those are commodities. They exist in a high concentration in the amine unit. The amine unit has to be well designed in a way that can handle those high concentrations. Well, first of all, remove them, then after that, handle them. When we move forward into the process, when we go to the dehydration or to the compression, or maybe to the, I don't know what the cycle that might be pegged at that stage, but again, the refrigeration as well, So all of those, they already have some sulfur, they already have some CO2, but it's a low concentration. So we prefer to utilize and absorb, or let's say separate almost all the H2S and all the CO2 at the amine in it, or at the gas sweetening in it. But it's not always the case. Sometimes we are forced to have some going to the next unit. That's why nowadays the new technologies are implementing stages. So they say, okay, the amine unit is the unit where you can separate and utilize the high concentration of those commodities. But also we have to have the next phase, which is the clean up, or what we call it, tail. Okay, so nowadays we are moving into the concept of the main and the cleanup. Both of them are not the same. If you are utilizing an amine unit, then probably you need to look at a more effective, less costly technology to clean up the low H2S CO2 concentrations. Again, we have to avoid the presence of H2S and CO2 at the end of our processing plant. The more, or the sooner you clean up and utilize those commodities in the process, the less environmental concerns that you will have later. Let's all remember that compression, for example, and compressors in general, they are very expensive. They have lots of mechanical parts. So you should expect lots of maintenance. If you want to add at the top of all of this, if you want to add the presence of H2S and CO2, then I guess you are facing a production difficulty here. Most of the problems that happens in the compression unit is actually initiated before that. The gas sweetening, the amine absorption is actually well understood. As I said, the first phase is the amine unit. The second one, or the second step in the cleanup, should be utilizing what we call it solid desiccants. Solid desiccants are basically in this little diagram. It is basically an adsorption process rather than an absorption process. So the adsorption process is basically, imagine or look at it as filters, solid filters, that they will capture the traces of H2S, CO2 that actually leaked from the amine process. So as a new technology, or as a new concept, we are introducing the adsorption technique into the matrix of the associated gas processing. It is less in capital cost in general, less in production problems, I would say, if again it is designed very well. Now, those filters that I just talked about, they vary. We have lots of them available in the market. You should, when you look at this concept, we probably need to look at the efficiency, like how efficient those are. How many pieces of adsorbents do I need? How many units do I need? Because the minute you start the operation, you cannot actually keep feeding the adsorption technique. You cannot just keep feeding it and you expect it will last for the next 10, 15 years. No, in the contrary, actually, whatever the filter is absorbing at this point, you have to regenerate it, you have to clean it. So the filter is sucking all of this commodity, and then you have to squeeze that filter and remove them out so you can start all over again. So that's why we always have something in process, and we have an adsorption unit in regeneration as well. And again, this is another point in the operation where you should pay more attention to the environmental concerns, because you are still dealing with the commodity H2S and the commodity CO2. The dehydration technique with the glycol absorption technique, or whatever. We have 3 types of glycol mainly, but whatever you are choosing as a gas dehydration, it is the same concept as well with the associated gas. So we are not inventing a new concept here. While if you guys just remember a minute ago, we invented actually the phases, techniques of sweetening. When it comes to the dehydration, basically this is the most famous technique. There are other techniques as well, but this is actually doing the job, and it's moving along very well with the environmental and the elimination concept that most of the companies and most of the countries are now utilizing. LPG recovery, this is also very well understood. Now, sulfur recovery. As you guys may know by now, what we did with the sulfur is we removed it in the amine unit, and we also removed whatever traces, whatever leaks. We did them in the solid desiccant technique. So what are we going to do with the sulfur? Well, the sulfur, again, is a commodity that we have to deal with, and the concept of sulfur recovery is utilized everywhere. The famous terminology about the sulfur recovery is well known by now. Basically, what you do is you absorb you remove the H2S. Now you have to find a way to change this from a gas state to a solid state. Once you have that in solid, now you have a solid or a powdered sulfur that we can use for other commodities like sulfuric acid, like other products that the industry needs. Let me remind myself and you guys, please, that we are the base and we are the first step when it comes to oil and gas. We are the first step in almost every industry on earth. If we handle and manage our production in a way that is safe and environmentally friendly, then all the industries after that will be safe and will be environmentally friendly. We are the first cornerstone that will eliminate the environmental hiccups and the environmental concerns in almost every industry after that. The reason behind it is very easy. We are the base for every other industry. Even you can find oil and gas in almost everything around us. Plastics, food and beverage, even in medicine, you will find a little bit of oil and gas there. So imagine if the cornerstone is clean, in a good shape, everything after that will be clean and safe, and of course, in a good shape. Back to the sulfur recovery, as I said, the sweetening and the dehydration, the LPG recovery, the compression, all of those can be handled in a way that sulfur will be taken out and changed to powder sulfur. And then from there, you can deal with it and sell it to other industries. As far as I remember, the 1 ton of sulfur nowadays is about $80 US. So it is $80 US that we are burning and flaring, which is, again, something that we cannot continue doing for their environmental health, for some social concerns. Plus, the main thing is you are burning money. Why should you do that? Back to the process that we already know about, the reducing the sulfur into the powder, is the famous Claus process. So the Claus sulfur recovery process is well known nowadays, except the fact that we started adding to this. So the same Klaus process has different versions now. One of the versions is called modified Klaus, where you are utilizing the same concept, but with more advantageous details to the process. The modified Klaus process may make the sulfur reduction process cheaper, at the same time safer, and of course more environmental friendly. We used in the Klaus process initially, we've been using also flaring there. Now we don't. The instrumentation, the control of this process is now well known. So it is not a black box anymore. It is actually well known, and there are lots of research, lots of experience about it. Basically what it does is it takes the H2S in general and convert it to powder. That's all what it does. Okay, now moving forward to the next step, the molten sulfur or the sulfur powder can be packaged in a certain way and then utilized in other industries. The tail gas treatment is actually an improved Klaus process. And all of those are the most recent techniques in the industry and technologies, of course, in the industry that makes the whole process more environmental friendly. And basically the target is to eliminate the waste and convert it into commodity. The other thing we want to talk about before I move forward is the CO2. Okay, so we have all of those techniques that can handle the sulfur. What about CO2? Is there any technique or any new technology that can handle it? Well, I would like to say yes, we are now mature enough to look at CO2 as a commodity as well. Several researchers, several plants, several factories and designs are now handling the CO2 and utilizing it the same way we are utilizing sulfur. So we are changing the CO2 from the gas status into another, maybe liquid, maybe another gas, but again, we are still looking at it as a price or a revenue generation commodity as well. CO2 can be converted easy nowadays to methanol. CO2 also can be captured and used as enhanced oil recovery technique. Here in Canada, surprisingly, we cannot have enough CO2 to handle all the further developments and all the CO2 utilization from waste to wealth technique. We have several issues about CO2 capturing and handling after that. And again, as I said, we do not have enough CO2 in the oil industry to handle the further utilization of it. So again, why do we bother recovering sulfur? Why should I do that? Why should I pay money to recover the sulfur or again the CO2 and convert it to other forms and other products? Well, basically, again and again, I will keep repeating myself, don't burn money away. And the most important thing is we do not live alone. Oil and gas industry is not alone in this planet. So stop dealing with the planet as if it is ours alone. We have always to keep in mind that we are part. We might be the most important, we might be the cornerstone, yes, but we are not alone. We have to handle that. We have to take care of the rest of the planet. We have to give as we take from this planet. The way to do it is to stop the environmental concerns. And the beauty now is those environmental concerns can make money, and they can also enhance the overall wealth of any country in the world. So we need to always remember that we are not, or we did not inherit environment. It is actually a liability. It is not a privilege. Environment on planet Earth is a liability. We have to give it to the next generations as clean as possible, and instead of giving it to them as a problem. So the future generations needs to inherit good environment, not bad environment. We are not supposed to give them problems. We are supposed to give them a problem-free, environmental problem-free situations. We must keep environment clean for different reasons, of course. But again and again, we are talking about sulfur as an example, but there are so many things also associated with it. The main two things that I want to deal, well, three things I'm dealing with nowadays is sulfur, CO2, and water. So those are the three things that we have to take into consideration when we deal with associated gas projects. Power generation, of course, and mainly, of course, is the consumes lots of energy. Whether you are utilizing gas, whether you are utilizing oil, coal, it's a matter of national security for most of the countries. Refineries also, petrochemical industry, they utilize lots of energy. As a result, concepts of energy efficiency, energy optimization, and recovery are now developed. The energy consumption concept, along with supported technologies and tools, are invented or were invented, and now it's been utilized. Every day you will hear a new, more efficient technique to produce energy. At the same time, because of the fact that you consume a lot of energy, then you should expect resulting more waste streams. CO2, NOx, SOx, methane, whatever the name is. Again, in our old terminology, we look at them as waste streams. And the new concepts, we are looking at them as a blessing, as a new revenue generation stream. There are lots of demands nowadays to clean operations, especially for power generation. But also the demand is now getting even more important and higher in value, because technologies to reduce those waste and to convert them to wealth, they are there and they are well understood. If we want to talk about methane, major methane containing waste streams comes from landfills. Okay, of course, we have also the gas flaring as one activity. But let me talk a little bit about landfills, please. So landfills where our day-to-day garbage goes and ends up in. Those landfills are where a concern actually for the governments, for the social activities, for environmental entities. Again and again, those are not a problem anymore. We do have a very mature technology that can convert the landfill waste into sort of energy. The technology is well known. It is already spread all over Europe and the rest of the world. We are not talking about incineration here. So we do not incinerate or burn the waste, no. Because I know there are few countries where they do the clean incineration. I am not personally a great supporter for incineration in general, but I would say that there are other techniques more efficient, less environmental, less harmful to the environment, or more environmental friendly, that can actually take the landfill waste and convert it to some sort of energy products. And to be more specific, we are talking about pyrolysis. The pyrolysis is now well known. It is basically roasting the waste in the absence of oxygen. Because if you have oxygen, you are talking about burning. If you don't have oxygen, you are talking about pyrolysis. There are several families for pyrolysis, several techniques for it, but the idea is it is there, it is available, and it does work and convert waste into wealth and into energy again. So from now on, wherever you go, whatever the type of waste you are looking at, just please remember that there are technologies available to turn this waste into a revenue generation source of energy. But again, we do not do the burning, we do not do the incineration. It's another concept altogether. Gas flaring is one of the activities that will produce environmental concerns. Again, we basically, the way I look at gas flaring is a insurance policy. I use it if I have a situation, but it's not my first go-to solution. It's easy to flare. It's easy to, handle it, but it's not my first go-to, I would say, technique. It is actually there as an emergency technique. It is not as a day-to-day operation and the process. The environmental mitigation and the environmental hiccups mitigation starts with the policies. Every country needs to develop certain policies for a clean environment. Let's again remember that environment is not inherited, it is actually a liability. We need to give it to the next generations as clean as possible. That's why we have to have environmental policies in place. We have to have a certain control. And when I say control, I don't mean power. I don't mean dictating the thing. I mean adjusting the environmental concerns if they go out of track. So we need to adjust the pollution and eliminate the environmental issues as we go, in case we have a situation where we actually facing some hiccups in our process. Several countries eliminated certain industries to stop the pollution coming from those industries. Well, that's also a solution, but to be honest, it's not the best solution, because when you eliminate an industry, you eliminate lots of things with it. Okay, you have social, you have environmental concerns, yes, but you cannot eliminate the industry because of the pollution. It is like, I'm sorry to use this example, but if you have a kid and a baby, and this baby is given more waste than normal, that's not a reason to eliminate this baby. Okay, we have to find a solution for those environmental concerns, and nowadays they are available. They are easily implemented, easily proven, and well understood everywhere. The use of coal for power generation was stopped completely and replaced with natural gas in several European countries, and mainly in Canada. We do not do coal anymore. The concept of best available technology. Now, this is where we need to focus on. Best available technology to implement so we can actually eliminate pollution. Now, several technologies disappeared and several others were modified, and several more, even several more, they show up to achieve that zero pollution concept, okay, for a certain industry. In oil and gas, we are proud to be the leaders in those technologies. We are proud because we are actually investing money in those technologies. And again, let's remember that we are the cornerstone. If the cornerstone is clean, if it is well designed, the rest of the building and the rest of the industries on planet Earth will be in a better shape and will achieve the goal of zero waste. Available technologies, again, like the one we talked about in sulfur, CO2, and even with the landfill waste, even with the oil spills, contaminated soil, we already have well-known, best available technologies in the market nowadays, which can handle and eliminate all of those. We know that oil spill is there. We know that contaminated soil is there. It's denying is not the solution. We have to admit that we may face a situation of oil spill or a contaminated soil. How to deal with that, and how fast we have to get into that, and can we actually change this from a problem to something favorable? Can we eliminate it? Well, we cannot eliminate the occurrence, but we can eliminate the environmental concerns associated with oil spills and contaminated soil. Best available technology is there. All what you need to do is just look for one, the one that suits your application. Now, as I am closing up, I just want to re-emphasize on the following, please. Nothing is waste anymore, okay? So there is nothing called garbage, waste, contaminated, spills. No. They are all with a value. We are all looking at them as a revenue generation commodities. Associated gas and also natural gas, they are similar in nature. They might vary on the amounts of impurities. They might vary of the probably the design, the project initiations, all of those kind of terminology. They may vary a little bit, but the concept is the same. Even the waste streams and the environmental concerns, they are also the same. The environmental concerns, they are coming at the same unit operations. They are coming from the same spots, the same unit operations. So let's look at associated gas as a natural gas process. Associated gas is not a byproduct anymore. Associated gas is something profitable and has a great potential. When you look at it in general, we have to consider so many aspects with associated gas. Again, the profit that associated gas can generate, the environmental concerns that it can eliminate, and also the health concerns associated with it can also be eliminated as well. We are now going to the era of sustainability. We need to sustain our resources, but also, and the most important, is to sustain our environment. We have to adopt sustainability as a mission. It's an everyday, all day mission for us as oil and gas industry. Sustainability in general has lots of meanings, but the way I look at it is give the next generations a clean environment. Do not give them problems.
Essam,
I am.
are you finishing up?
I am finishing up. I will turn the mic to you guys, Marisol, and my colleagues with the United Nations. Please take the lead. I will stop sharing my screen in a minute.
Actually, keep your screen,
Okay.
SM,
Okay.
in case that we need to refer to a few things. So thank you so much, SM, for that initial discussion, to initiate our discussion on associated gas processing and
Sure.
treatment. So can I just ask if there are any questions from the floor related to SM's presentation? Like clarification questions, like things that you may not have fully understood, we can go back and review some of the slides. So just raise your hand or put it in the chat. Actually, it's better if you raise your hand and then we can give you the floor. Are there any questions? I don't see anybody raising questions. So actually, I had a question, SM.
Yes, please.
So, you were talking about, I think the main key message as well in your presentation is that there is no such thing as waste. And if your facility is designed well, you can actually maximize and optimize the use of all the various, let's say, byproducts that come out of processing and treatment. So the question is, why aren't oil and gas facilities doing this? What are the barriers to uptake of this type of principles?
Well, first of all, environmental laws and environmental acts and environmental standards are there. Now, why we are not utilizing them? Well, because we had the idea of looking at environment as a problem. It's like I am looking at environmental prevention or environmental concerns prevention as a cost. I don't look at it as benefits. It will cost me money, but it's not going to make me money. It will just give me a good image, which I don't care about. Okay. Nowadays, the concept is different. The idea of waste to wealth is changing the whole concept. Waste and environmental concerns, if I eliminate them, they cost me money. Yes, they do, but they also make money. So the driving force behind all of this is to change our mindset and the industry mindset. Like here in Canada, we look at any environmental related project as revenue generation project. It is not a cost that I pay just to make me look good. Okay, so the minute we change this mindset, everything will fall in place.
So let's go back to your slides, SM, on the sulfur. For example, let's take the sulfur recovery.
Yes.
Okay. So this is often taken when you have high sulfur content, let's say in your oil reservoir, right?
Yes.
You have associated gas with high sulfur content, which some countries do actually. I understand Uganda, for example, the Uganda oil fields have a high sulfur content, and Iraq has this problem as well. And so you talked about, taking out the sulfur, like sulfur recovery. So if you go back to your slides related to sulfur
You see
recovery.
it in front of you? I went to slide number 12, which we started.
I don't see it.
Oh, okay.
Does everybody, Bernice, Sir, and Taylor, do you see it?
Not yet.
I don't see it either.
Not yet. So
Okay,
you can,
let me-
Not yet.
okay.
So shall I
So the-
reshare it again? I believe I
Yeah,
screen
maybe
sharing
you
that
can
stuff.
reshare.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let me go. Let me put it on my presentation mode, and then I will go to my Zoom, share the screen. It should be here.
It's coming.
Something is going on.
Something is coming, but not yet. Okay,
yet,
there's a
okay.
problem.
Okay, well, let's redo it again. So I'm, okay, so I stopped sharing it. Let me try to do it this way. If I go here and if I go to this here and I say share, you should be able to see this.
Okay. So we see your screen now.
Wonderful.
That's fine.
So
leave it like this. This is fine.
Leave it like this. Okay.
Yeah. It's not in presentation mode, but it's fine.
Okay.
So here we are. We have an oil reservoir that has a high sulfur content, or associated gas. So then they take out the associated gas, they process and treat it, and then you have a lot of sulfur, which is then converted into a powder form, right, SM?
Yes, ma'am.
So like then you can have like huge blocks of this sulfur in powder form. And we have actually some pictures from Iraq on this, where they have stacks and stacks of this powdered, condensed powdered sulfur in like huge square blocks, like stacked. But then they can't do anything with it. In Iraq, they have this huge problem. It's sort of sitting there in the desert, and they want to figure out how to manage and make a profit from this. So, but then they have some issues. So what are some of these barriers, SM, from, let's say, okay, they recovered the sulfur. Governments want to ensure that they can make a profit by selling this, because you mentioned that sulfur costs, you can recover like $80 per ton of sulfur.
Exactly.
So what is the difficulty of actually getting, like, either the companies or the governments in getting this out to the market?
Well, there are a few points to look at. Technology is the easiest one. Okay, so when somebody will ask, okay, is there a technology? Well, there is a technology. Is it profitable? Yes. Is it approved? Yes, it's proven. All of those kind of things. Can I see it running? Well, it's spread all over the world. So technical reasons, they do not exist anymore. Now we come to other reasons. For example, how serious the country is to deal with this. What about the environmental law, the environmental acts? Is it there? Yes, it is there. Is it implemented? Well, we need to know if it is implemented or not. And then we look at the social aspects, political aspects, economic aspects. Iraq, for example, is coming in the middle. They can, and I don't know why exactly they do not do that. They can ship this sulfur to anywhere in the world and still be profitable for them. Cost of shipping from Iraq to China, let's say, we're actually one of the major markets for sulfur. It is already there. It is not a huge distance like between Canada and China. Between Canada, it's inside Canada itself. So transportation is not an issue. Technology is not an issue. So what is left? Well, the law, the acts should be implemented in a way to stop all of this and to utilize the sulfur they have. Now, can I do it without shipping it outside? Because, sometimes people will say, okay, this is a problem in Iraq. You are shipping this problem to another country. No, we don't want to do that. Fine, don't do this. How about utilizing the sulfur and producing sulfuric acid out of it? Okay, and then the sulfuric acid is not waste anymore. It is, you can ship it to any country in the world. As you guys may know, the amount of sulfuric acid every country consumes gives an impression about the maturity of the industry there. The more sulfuric acid you use, the more maturity, the more valuable industry you have. So I have a couple of solutions for the Iraqis. First, start your own industry based on this sulfur, like sulfuric acid, like another example, I guess, in Africa as well will be the fertilizers. So take that sulfur and utilize it into fertilizer, agricultural use. We all know that sulfur is needed for agriculture. Okay, so mix it up use it as well as part of the fertilizers program you are implementing in agriculture. The last one is on the other solution will be, you know what, if you cannot do that in the country itself, ship it to a country that can use it. Africa, for example, needs lots of fertilizer. They do have lots of need when it comes to sulfuric acid. They don't want to do that. They don't have the capabilities of doing that. Understood? Try to find a market and ship it to that market. Markets are there for sulfur utilization.
So I think if I understood you correctly as well, Essam, it really requires effort from both the government side and also from the company side to develop these solutions together. So I think this is also something to keep in mind in terms of for let's say if you are developing new fields, to already think through some of these, byproducts, let's say, for a lack of a better term, that you can have secondary industries that come out of it and start to invest in that from the beginning. And I think governments can also require companies to develop solutions. If they know that they have already a high sulfur content for associated gas, they know there will be this potential concern. So they can then put the responsibility on companies to develop solutions already to manage sulfur as part of their environmental management plan. And I've also heard of other companies, then supporting new industries to develop in order to take their waste. I mean, from the company side, it's their waste, but then they support other industries and give it to them to start using it as well. Like you can all, I don't know, there's many partnerships between oil industry and the cement industry, for example, right, Essam?
It's all, Marisol, all starts at changing the mindset. Okay. If I am still convinced that, environmental mitigation and elimination, environmental concerns mitigation and elimination is not going to make me money. It will cost me money, but it's not going to give me my investment back. Then we are going nowhere. That's number one. Number two is it's all about the government. If they implement the acts that they have, if they open the drawers and take those acts out and start implementing them in a way that the industry will not feel like the government is penalizing us. No, we are not penalizing. What we need to do is, you know what, guys, we are just driving your attention to the fact that this waste that you have can be converted easily to money. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's spread this. Okay. Let's do what I call it the awareness in industry.
Great. You're talking to the right audience because most of our participants are from our government regulators. We actually have now many comments and questions. So I will start first with.
Do you mind, please, Marisol, just give me 1 second here. When it comes to the government, we need to change also the concept of watching and controlling. We are not controlling. We are not watching what's happening in the industry. We are there to help the industry delivering a more sustainable operation. So we are not penalizing them. So when the minute I see an environmental officer inside my plant, I should be happy, because this man is coming to me to drive my attention to the fact that, oh, you have a problem here? I have the solution. This is the solution, okay? So we are not coming to them to penalize them or to submit or to ask them, you know what, you are doing a mistake, let me give you a ticket. It's not like that anymore. Sorry.
Perfect. We will actually come back to this in module 3 about roles and responsibilities. And so we'll come back to this discussion. We had a hand up from, we had a first hand up from Mr. Mubarak from Golis University. You want to take the floor now, Mr. Mubarak from Golis University? Okay, maybe he'll come back later. So let me call on.
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
We do.
So I wanted to ask you to Master Hussein to, you said that the most important compounds or wastes that we deal is water and carbon and sulfur. So how about the other gases, and are they really harmless or what? So I want to ask them what are the other gases and what we are going to do with them, how we are going to deal with them. Thank you.
Thank you. We took.
Hold on.
Sorry, yes, sorry.
Well, I'll take a few questions and then you can kind of respond to them. Okay, so if you just note them down, okay,
I will.
because there may be some overlaps. Mr. Jacques from Madagascar, you want to ask your question?
Yeah, my question is looks similar with the previous one, but the compound. But I want to add, is it the same for all resources in the world? The composition of the gas or the petroleum. For example, Madagascar, we have resources of gas, petroleum. I'm asking if the same compound with composition of another country. That is my question. Thank you.
Okay, and then I'll give you a third question, Essam, from the chat. This is from Dr. Tom from Kenya. At what stage is benzene gas introduced in the supply chain, and how is it monitored owing to its carcinogenic properties? So this is kind of all related about the sort of different types of gases that are produced and how do you manage these different gases?
Thank you, Marisol. I'll start. Is it the same all over the world? Is it the same composition? I mean, when we are talking about associated gas, like the associated gas in Iraq, is it the same as in Canada? Is it same as in Africa? Well, more or less it is. Okay, probably the amount of commodities or the amount of waste might be different, might be less in certain country, more in another country. But to tell you the truth, all our reserves now, all over the world, they are exceeding the environmental limits. So we do not have sweet gas anymore. Okay, it was one day, but not anymore. Same for oil. Same for, again, for natural gas or associated gas. So we all share the same environmental issues. That's why in module 3, we will talk about, well, since we are sharing the same problem, can we share the same solution? Okay, can I make benefit of the experience available in Norway and I can apply it in my country? How did they reach the point where they eliminate the hassle, and why I cannot do it? Well, definitely you can do it. The same problem is everywhere. Let's go and share the same solutions that took place in other countries. Now, we talked about water, sulfur, and carbon dioxide. We just took those as examples. I mean, those are not the only commodities / waste. We have others. For example, heavy metals. How do you deal with heavy metals that can present in water? And again, I go back to Marisol's example. Oil and gas industry must help, well, not help, must open other industries and bring them into the same matrix. Now, saying so, the gas that contains heavy metals or benzene or whatever you call it, there is a mature technology to deal with it. For example, heavy metal. If we are talking about vanadium as a problem that was identified in Canada about 20 years ago, it took only 3 years to realize that, oh, I can recover this vanadium and I can sell it. And by the way, it is, in Canada at least, the price of vanadium is 70 times the price of gold. Okay, so if I can take this issue and convert it to value, why not to do it? We do have a technology that is dealing with heavy metals as well. So my point is, let's talk about each and every, well, let's talk about the major concerns and convert them to value. Now, if there are other concerns, of course, we can handle those as well. Now, again, to be honest, if you remove water, if you remove sulfur, carbon dioxide, methane, if you stop all of those, you are reducing a lot your environmental concerns. Okay, if you wanna, now once you have this established, you can add to it. Now then next, let's talk about heavy metals. Well, we already have the industry that deals with water, sulfur, carbon. Wonderful, let's add to that. Let's open the door for newcomers to my country or to my industry as oil and gas, as I am always doing. Oil and gas started as a different industry or a standalone industry. Now you can see oil and gas in every aspect of our life. So yeah, I would answer also the benzene gas or whatever the concern about the associated gas. If you have the major 3, I would say, impurities handled, then the rest of impurities can be also handled. Now, how can I do that? Well, government, private sector, and universities. 3 major pillars to solve any problem. Okay, the government will put the acts, the industry will respond positively to those acts, and the universities will help both the government and the industry to change the concept of concern to the concept of profit making. There are 3 main pillars, please: university or universities, government, and industry. None, if you have the 3 of them in the same room working together, you will never find any problem without a solution. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, SM. SM, can you just remind me again that the three major, let's say, like impurities that we have to keep in mind? It would be carbon dioxide, sulfur,
and water.
And water.
Yes.
Okay. So, but would you? I mean, I think methane could also be another big component of that as well.
Marisol, we passed this point. Methane is money. And we used to waste this, not anymore. Methane is not a concern anymore.
Yes. So so these are the things, like as SM said, like handle the big issues first, and then the smaller issues will kind of follow along.
You will have money to spend on those small things, and get them out of the picture as well.
Yes. Okay, I'll continue, SM, because there's lots of good questions. So this is a question from Mr. Mahmoud, from Somalia, the Ministry of Petroleum from Somalia. Hi, Mr. Mahmoud. What if the production is going on offshore? Should they build the processing facility on the ship? Yeah. And then another question from Urias Taylor. Is it possible to treat all impurities in a natural gas in a single system? I think you kind of addressed that already in your previous response. How to manage, okay, then the other question is, well, then how to manage pollution of air. Okay, I'm just scrolling through here. Okay, I think that's made like offshore, what to do with offshore, and then we have a number of, and then we have Mr. Tom from Kenya Wise with his hand up. So Dr. Tom, can you ask your question so we can collectively address the set of questions?
Thank you very much. My question was not answered effectively because I was asking at which level is benzene introduced in the oily, of course, in the oil supply chain, and how is it monitored because of its carcinogenic properties? I don't think Dr. Esam was able to answer that question.
Okay, so we go back to that. So
yes.
SM, if you don't mind going back to that and just retouching it, and then whether processing facilities are possible if you have an offshore facility. And then the third question is from Department of Environment. But I don't know which country. What is the best technology or internationally accepted method of handling toluene underground seepage from a synthetic oil-based mud waste holding site? That's a very specific question. So I'll just read again the third question. What is the best technology or accepted method of handling toluene, which is part of the BTEX form of compounds which are carcinogenic, underground seepage from a synthetic oil-based mud waste holding site, SOBM? Kevin from Kenya. Okay, SM, over to you.
Yeah. Going back to the best. Well, let's go back to the at what stage in the supply chain we handle the benzene gas, and of course at the same time, how do we monitor this? Well, let me start with monitoring. The continuous emission monitoring system, okay, is already implemented in Canada, and this concept has, let me say, three major things into it. First, I call it the sensor. Okay, how do you actually detect the problem? How fast you can report it, and how fast you can implement a solution. Okay, so if we can track whatever you are measuring in general, if we can track it in a way that is fast enough, solution is ready, then we can implement it. Okay, now, so how do we monitor this? Well, I believe monitoring starts from first the act, the law that the government will put in place for a certain contaminant. And this is a general answer, any contaminant. If you start with the law, the act, putting the limits, now implement the continuous emission monitoring system using certain tools like sensors, like reporting techniques. I don't want to go too deep, but I can say also the SCADA systems, the control and supervisory technologies. If you can implement it in a way that can fasten your information or getting to know that you have a problem, then that is also favorable. And the last thing is you should have a solution for that ready. Whatever the impurities you are dealing with, there is always a solution to handle it. The last solution is to go to the industry, tell them, you guys, by the way, you guys have a problem, but I'm sorry, I don't have a solution for that. But you know what? You have only 1 week to handle this problem. They cannot do that. You have to come to them with the problem, with the awareness, with the solution. Okay. Now, how fast we can talk about this type of gas in the supply chain? My answer will be, it depends on the country. The best solution in this case, or to answer this question, is to start a cooperation with the nearest university that you have. And guess what? They will find you a solution. Okay, why? Because they are, well, not the universities alone, but there are also some governmental research institutes as well that they can help in this matter. So it depends on the country, it depends on the contaminant or the impurities itself, but there is always a matrix that you can put in place. Again, 3 major columns, 3 major pillars: the universities or the research centers, the governmental research centers, the industry, and the government.
Thank you, Essam. It's a good point that you're making about, creating the enabling policy environment, right? Ensuring that, if you want to regulate these carcinogenic compounds like toluene, or you should first have the laws in place. This is the point you're making. But, especially with respect to emissions to air, what we know is that many regulations remain underdeveloped or not developed in many of the countries where we work in, because of course the first focus is on, let's say, water pollution issues and land degradation issues, etc. And then emissions to air is sometimes kind of in the last priority list, let's say. And what we have seen in many OFD countries, for example, is in the absence of existing regulations, then the way they handle this is through the EIAs, the environmental impact assessments. So the environmental impact assessments are very important tools for not just for planning, but also to help regulate the sector. And this is where you put in your requirements, especially with regards to emissions to air. So many countries are doing this in absence of the existing regulation. But of course, long term, this is what you have to do, is to establish the regulations and policy. But we know that can take time. It can take many years to have that in place. But what you have now are the EIAs, the EIA and permitting process. So this is where also it's important to ensure that you include this as part of your EIA instruments. And also those ministries who are responsible for the production sharing agreements, for example, that is also where you can influence cleaner operations, is through the production sharing agreements that you enter with the company. So, you know, these are the things that various solutions that I have seen other countries take up. If you don't have the regulations in place yet. Okay. All right. I think we are nearing. Oh, there's another question. Hold on.
Well, I still, sorry, Marisol, but I still have two more questions to answer from the previous one. So
all right.
just let me tell you that environmental impact assessment is a tool, yes, but it identifies the problems, but it doesn't give any solution. And again, if we can implement the act, the tool, and the solution at the same time, then bingo, you are hitting a home run, which is, you know, the country will win at the end. The offshore operation, like what do you do if you have an offshore operation with all of those impurities? What do you do with them? Well, to be honest, now we have modular designs. So all of the technologies, they come on scalable capacities, from very low scale or very low capacity all the way to a high capacity. So I would like to emphasize always that if you have an offshore company, offshore operation, then most likely you need a modular design. Okay, modular design means a technology you choose that will be more efficient, but it doesn't take space. The single system to deal with all impurities, I did not hear of any yet. What we look at it is a train. Train means it's a process. So it might be a single system. You can say it's a single system, but inside that system, you will have steps. Each step will handle a different impurity. Talking about H2S and CO2, nowadays we do have a unit that can handle both of them at the same time, because they are utilizing a new type of chemicals that can actually help reducing the sulfur and the CO2. Now, I am not a great supporter with the one system that can handle all, because if one system can handle all, then I am mixing the problems together and I deliver them like one package. How am I gonna deal with them after that? Well, if you are flaring them, oh yeah, of course you don't care. But if you are changing them to a commodity that has a value, I prefer to deal with each impurity alone. Then it will be more easy to convert that impurity to a useful commodity. Thank you, Marisol.
Thanks, Essam. Yeah, just to add to what you said, I mean, indeed, of course, the EIAs look at the potential problem identification, but of course, the permitting process includes the environmental management plans. So they go hand in hand, of course. The EIAs and the environmental management plans is what, you know, the company is going to do in order to reduce or prevent those potential environmental impacts. And that's where in the permitting process, you can require countries to do certain things and adopt certain cleaner technologies is in the permitting process. Essam, I have another comment from Nigeria on flaring, on gas flaring.
Yes.
So considering that gas flaring is part of gas processing operations, is there a globally accepted minimum or maximum volume of flare that can be accommodated as a government regulatory agency?
Indeed, gas flaring is part of the process, but is it the first solution to go to? No, it is not. It is there as an insurance policy. It's like an emergency plan. In case I have so-and-so situation, then I will go to the solution. So it is part of the process. I agree totally, but it's not the first solution. Now, is there a globally? Like, I can talk about Norway and Canada. I can say, yes, we do have a maximum allowable limit for flaring, and all the industries that I am aware of in those two countries, they follow the rule easy. Okay, so those limits are there. They are acceptable by the industry and they are doable. So yes, we do have acceptable, global acceptable. Well, I'm not going to say global. I would say for those two countries mainly, we do have an acceptable flaring capacity and limits.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Essam. So I think, I mean, I think again, it goes back to the country regulations on this. I mean, there are global initiatives regarding flaring, for example, and as Essam said, it should be the last option, not part of the main sort of solution that is considered in handling associated gas, and because there is actually a significant public health impact as well in all of this, and of course the climate impact in general. So I think I will stop here and give us all a bit of a break, and also Essam a bit of a break. Thank you very much for a very interesting discussion. We will continue to have this sort of Q&A, back and forth, open discussion. And I'm going to ask Taylor now if he can share in the chat. We have started a Q&A shared Google Doc. Okay, so Taylor will share the link now in the chat, where what we are doing is we are keeping track of all the questions and the responses. And then you are welcome to post additional questions or comments, which Essam can respond to, if not now, later. But we will have a documentation of the different questions and answers, so that it will also help with your knowledge enhancement. So you're welcome to post questions like tonight, this evening, tomorrow morning, if you think of something else. And then we will come back to some of these questions. Okay, so Taylor, I'll just ask you to share that now. So now we will go to break. So here, I see it now. Thank you, Taylor. We'll go to a break for about 15 minutes. So we will come back after 15 minutes. And then we will do a bit of some analytical exercise, okay? Since there are so many of us, I think it will be very hard to put you in groups. So what we will do is do individual exercises. I mean, we'll work quietly together, and then we'll come back and share some of our thinking together, okay? Now, the exercises should look like this. I'm gonna show it. I'm gonna share my screen. Okay. Do you see it? Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
You are sharing.
Yes.
Okay. So everyone on the call should have received this in your email. Okay, it looks like this, and together with attachments of reference documents. So please check your email. If you haven't received this, can you please send a chat to Bernice and say, please email it to me now, and give your email, your correct email. Okay, and then Bernice will do her best to send it to you, so that we'll come back to this after the break. Okay. All right. Hang on. Am I back? Yes. Okay, so we can now go for break, have a coffee, stretch your legs, and we'll come back in 15 minutes. Okay, welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a bit of a good stretch and have taken a cup of coffee or tea during your break. So I saw that several people have asked for the documents to be mailed, so that's great. I hope you got them. So let's now turn to the exercises, right? So I'm going to share my screen again. Just confirm you can hear me, someone.
Yes.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, I
Perfect.
can hear you.
Thank you. Okay, do you see my screen now?
Yes, you are now sharing.
Yep.
Okay, great. So so you should have this in your email by now. So we talked about a little bit about the how to ensure or how to encourage companies and our operations to adopt more cleaner, let's say cleaner technologies or cleaner operational processes. But first we have to be able to understand what are the potential environmental impacts or concerns that can come out of a gas processing and treatment facility, right? So this exercise is meant to reflect further on our discussions today and SM's PowerPoint presentation. Okay, so here let's pretend, so we will do it individually because there's too many of us in the training room. So we'll do it individually. We'll spend a few minutes pretending, let's say we are part of a team of an EIA, reviewing an EIA report, right? And there's a project that has been submitted. And this project looks like something like the Pembina gas processing facility in Alberta, Canada, okay? Which we've shared this document with you. So it looks like something similar to this kind of project. So the question that you need to think about is, what type of information and commitments with regards to the management of gas processing would you need or request to see in the EIA submitted by the operator for this proposed project? Okay. So I'll give you about 40 minutes or 45 minutes max to do this exercise individually. So we won't do it in groups. Because I'm looking at how many are we? We are about
112 now.
Yeah. So I think it's too many people to put in small groups. So I think we'll try this. Let's do individual, and then you can give us your feedback, whether you prefer to work in teams or whether you're okay working like this. And then we'll come back together and discuss as a group. So you're going to, the assignment is to develop a checklist that you as the EIA reviewer will use to review the gas processing and treatment proposal, okay? So discuss what are the minimum levels of details you need to be able to approve the EIA report. And you can take into account your own local country context, like what you know would be the requirements. And be as specific as possible, okay? So what you can do is look at other sample EIA reports to get a sense of what an EIA report should contain. But the main exercise is to do a checklist of what you need to see or what you wish to see in the EIA report that will be prepared by the operator. So you're thinking about what are the potential environmental impacts associated with a gas processing and treatment project, okay? So what you're going to do is take a look at the document called Pembina Two Lakes Project, Final Terms of Reference. So pretend you're given this project for in your country context, something similar. So here you have the final terms of reference for the operator to undertake the EIA process. So this is at the end of the scoping report. There's a TORs, and then you will now note down like all the essential elements that you will want to see them include in the EIA report. So you're focusing on the potential environmental concerns or potential environmental impacts associated with the gas processing facility, like what you have in the Pembina Two Lakes project. Okay. Now, if this is new for you, if EIAs are new, you can take a look at 2 sample EIA reports. So we're sharing with you we shared with you the Anadarko EIA report on liquefied natural gas project in Cabo Delgado, Mozambique. Okay. And then there's another EIA report for Ghana, a gas project. I mean, an oil field project with associated gas elements in an offshore project in Ghana. So this is the link that we gave you to, it's a Tulo field site. Okay. Are there any questions regarding this exercise? Okay, let me come back to you. Just make sure. Are there any questions? Okay, so if there are no questions, please start. I will check back with you around, so take about half an hour to do this exercise. I will leave my screen. Actually, maybe I can ask, let's see, do you have, so just make sure that you have all of it on your screen. And then we can take about 35, 40 minutes. I'll check back with you. And we'll have a group discussion of what you came up with. Okay. And then if you prepare a checklist, I can ask you to share your screen, and then you can also present to us what you developed. Okay. So I'll leave my screen open for a few minutes, and then please go ahead and continue working. Yeah, Bernice, are we able to paste documents on Zoom on the chat?
Yes, so I've shared the assignment, the Word document there.
But have you shared it in the chat of Zoom?
Yes, I've done that.
Oh, can you do it again? Because I think somebody has missed it.
Okay.
So Bernice is now sharing the Word document. And also share, if you can share, Bernice, the Pembina final terms of reference PDF,
Okay.
that would be useful for them to do.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to paste it now. So just wait for it. I didn't see that one either. Can you tell us, Bernice, once you've done it? I'm not sure if I get all the messages.
Okay. I think those using phone can't access the Word document. If you are using a phone, you can't access it. You can only
Okay.
access it at the desktop or laptop.
Okay,
So
have you done it? Have you shared it now?
yes, I have.
Okay, how come I'm not getting that either? I don't have it.
Okay, let me reshare it. I've shared it like 4 times. Okay, I'm really sharing it.
How are you sharing it? Because
Okay.
How are you sharing it?
As an attachment, I'm coming.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll share it right now. You can access it on your laptop.
But are you putting it in the chat?
Yes, please.
Huh, but I don't have it.
Check and see. It's there now. You see it?
I see it up above. Like I see
Where?
it. You shared it a few times. If I scroll up in the chat, I
Yes,
see you're sharing it like
I've
4
shared
times.
it. I've shared like 4 times. Yes.
Okay. But I'm okay. Hang on.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a lag. Maybe there's a time because I don't. Okay. Let's think about.
Yes, I've shared it like 4 times in the chat box.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I also shared it. Maybe you guys can see that.
No.
Oh, weird. I don't
yes,
know.
it's very strange. So not and other people are not. Say some people say go up and you will see it. So okay. So this is what we. You know what? Maybe this is what we can do, Taylor, if you don't mind. Would you mind putting it in a shared Google Doc and sharing us the link?
Okay.
Sure, I can do that.
Can you do that? Either Bernice or Taylor?
I'll do that. Yeah, it'll just take a second, but I can do that. Yep.
Okay. So those of you who cannot see the file attachment, Taylor will share a shared Google Doc link and you can get the file that way. But it's really interesting because I also don't have it for some reason.
It's really weird.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So some people are seeing it.
I see it.
And some do not. And I wonder, Bernice, do you have the Zoom software uploaded in your laptop?
Yes.
By chance. I wonder if it has something to do with that.
Oh, okay. Okay, so Taylor just shared the link. So please, you can use the link shared to access the document.
Thank you. Thank you. So Taylor in his last chat, 4:02 my time, has downloaded the individual exercise. So okay, now I think everyone should have the link now to the shared Google Doc. Okay. All right. Okay. So it's good because then we'll use it for tomorrow. And now the problem is that.
Can you please
say it again, Bernice?
I'm asking Taylor to add the other documents.
The Pembina.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
I
let's
can do that
go
too.
ahead and
That'll just take a sec. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't worry about receiving an email or seeing it on the chat. We have now the document. In the chat, you can see the individual exercise. You have to go to the shared Google Doc link, and you will have the individual exercise. And Taylor will share also the Pembina gas processing facility terms of reference, which you can use as a reference for your individual exercise. Okay? Yeah, I think, yeah. Thank you. Thank you both.
Oh yeah, you're welcome.
So now Taylor has shared two documents you need for the exercise. So look in the chat box at 4:02 Geneva time, and then at 4:04 Geneva time. Okay, so that's what you need to get you started. All right. Thank you.
Hi,
This
hi
meeting is
everybody.
recorded.
I am from Colombia. I am from the National Hydrocarbon Agency. I can share my slide.
Yes, can you share it? I don't know. Bernice may have to give you permission to be presenter, Bernice, right? Go ahead and share your screen.
Give me a moment. This is in process. After a review the all documents, the Colombia teams, when we are Anelfi Balaguera and Ramiro Alonso Jaimes, we think that the topics that we need for complete the review the EAI is the regulatory framework, the IAS process approach of methodology, project description of gas. Give me a moment. The AI team, because it's important to know who elaborate these documents. Project description of gas production with estimated hydrocarbon production of the Pempinas project, because you know that you will estimate the all the infrastructure project with the estimated hydrocarbon production. And other personal requirements for the operation of the Pempinas project, air quality baseline before the project, air quality monitoring after and during all the life cycle of the project, and the commissioning and abandonment of the project, and social management plan. Because in Colombia we have a reference from the environment sector and some important topics for the project can get a good management.
Perfect.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'll call one more person, Mr. Francisco Bernardo from Angola. You want to add what you haven't yet heard?
Yeah, I'd like to add something, because we know that when we have a gas processing and treatment, it's not just the people that are affected, you know. So we have to understand the biophysical description. What means that we have to see the geomorphology, the geology, the soil, the wildlife, and the flower. How will it be affected by the action that is being taken? So we have also to describe the fatal issues, like what is the principal impact that this activity will result by the implementing in this area. So this is what I would like to add. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a lot of hands up, so I think I will take a few more. Essam, I hope you're just noting down the key things that we need to highlight. So, okay, great. Then I will call on Jane Rose from NEMA in Uganda. Is there anything else that you would add to what has already been presented?
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah.
We do.
So,
Yes.
according to the checklist, some of the important things I think are the management plans, and some of those include like the ESMP, the air emissions management plan, the waste management plan, and then also because like from the presenter, we are moving into sustainability. So I think our EIAs should also look at the sustainability of the project integrated into climate change Yes, and maybe things like bio-circular economy. Then also the most important document as well to look at maybe in the checklist is to refer to the terms of reference and refer to the information, for example, the response letters that are usually given to the developers, detailing some of the things that should be included or considered in the EIA process. Yeah, basically, I think the rest has been, discussed.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I will also then call on Okot Cecilia. Please introduce yourself and your institution.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes.
Akot.
Yes, yes, Akot Cecilia from Total Energies Uganda. Yeah, I just wanted to add on that the fact that the impacts of gas is very widespread. So we should also consider the cumulative impacts management into our review. And in that way, we are looking at the net gain program, for example, so that we ensure that there is no net loss for biodiversity and the general landscape. And this way it will involve, for example, working with other stakeholders to make sure that we bring everything to terms. And I think most of the other things have been tackled. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me call then on Mahmoud from Somalia, Ministry of Petroleum. Is there anything else that you have not yet heard from what people have discussed? You're muted, Mr. Mahmoud, if you're speaking.
Hi, Marisol. Good evening. My name is Mahmoud Hassan, Somalia, Minister of Petroleum. Actually, I'm not expertise in this area, but I found some maybe points that I can add. Like, for example, the process can create also problems, issues. So we have to put on the list. Also, maybe impacts of what biodiversity, air quality, climate change, to greenhouse effects, greenhouse gases, flora, fauna, water quality, all this is we can add the lists. Other things I think is maybe okay to add is stakeholder consultation or public hearing, because maybe they know more than us. So and also objectives. What is the objective actual? Maybe the objective is not suitable for the area. So this list is, I think, it's something I thought I could add. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mahmoud. Let me call one more. I'll take one more, and then let's hear from Esam's reflections. How about Mr. Jonathan Gichuru from Alliance of Biodiversity in SIAT? Jonathan, you have the floor. We don't hear you. You might be speaking, but we don't hear you. Maybe check your microphone. Let me call on.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry about that. Mine is just to add on an aspect that might be overlooked, but it's very important, and that is a grievance mechanism that will be used to where the community members can address the issues that they feel affect them in this project.
Okay. Thank you so much. Good. Great. See, that's nice to keep adding to our collective wisdom and knowledge. So let me turn to Essam just to give some reflections back to your input.
Thank you, Marisol. Well, the environmental impact assessment, basically the first question we need to ask is, who's asking for it? Is it the government for the license or the permit? Or is it the bank for a loan? So the environmental impact assessment can be asked by different entities, whether it is a government, whether it is a bank, whether it is private investment. So that will determine the purpose of your impact assessment. Is it needed at what stage of the project? For example, if we are seeking a project that is a brand new, grassroots, never done before, then there is a special, well, not a special, there are requirements for the environmental impact assessment different from adding or expanding a current project. So first, who's asking for it, at what stage of the project, and how detailed? Like, is it gonna be 300 pages or is it gonna be 3 pages? Because we have classes for the environmental impact assessment. We have class 5, class 4, class 3, 2, and 1. Okay. Then who can prepare it? So let's assume that the impact assessment is asked by the government for a license. Wonderful. The government has to have approved people or approved, I would say, companies in this matter, that they are allowed to do the assessment, because not anybody can do it. Okay. The main things that we take care of in the assessment will be related to humans, water, air, earth, and other living partners. What I mean by other living partners is basically we do not live on planet Earth alone. There are other creatures with us. So we need also to include the impact of this project on those creatures. It has to come in chapters or divisions. We have to talk, as I said, about human, water, air, earth, creatures, but we also need to describe the project itself. What is it about? Is it about oil, associated gas? Is it about hospital? Is it about what exactly is it about? Now, the most important thing is who will review the environmental impact assessment. Like, we decided on who is approved to do it, and also who is approved to review it. Okay, it is very important to know that the person or the entity that is reviewing the impact assessment is actually qualified to do that. The big question that I have for everybody, can you please tell me the environmental impact assessment? Is it for the company? Is it for the project? Or is it for the location? Just to explain more, let's assume I am a company going an associated gas project in Ghana. Okay, so my environmental impact assessment is valid wherever I go in Ghana, or is it tied for a certain location? Okay, so the environmental impact assessment, is it for the company, or is it for the project, or is it for the location? The question will be, if the entity, or let's say the government in this case, said, okay, your environmental impact assessment is accepted, thank you. Okay, that means I can take that approval and go anywhere in Ghana, or just on a specific location. Let me remind you guys that environmental impact assessment is tied with the location. If you change the location, you need another one. So the environmental impact assessment is not attached to the company, and it is not attached to the project. It is attached to the location.
I had a question, Essam, just for you to reflect on. So if they were looking at a project to do gas processing and treatment, so in terms of potential environmental impacts, like what would you look for? Let's just review what we discussed earlier. So what would be the key potential environmental impacts that you would look for in the EIA?
Okay, first of all, the company that is coming to do this, do they have the expertise to mitigate and eliminate the environmental hiccups? The other thing is, where is the location of the project? Is it near the sea? Is it near the river? Is it on the mountains? Okay, and I will be looking at how do you deal with your project in a way that makes it environmentally friendly for humans, for water, for air, earth, and other living partners in that particular location. Just to give you an example, the environmental impact assessment in Canada depends a lot on the location. Okay, for if you have, let's say, deers or bears or animals living in that area, there is a certain period of time that your environmental impact assessment is not valid. Okay, so you have to, whatever activities you are doing, you have to stop it in that particular period of time. Same if you need water, for example, and you are taking the water from the nearest river. Okay, is it true that I can take whatever I need anytime I need? No. Every month you are allowed a certain amount of water to be taken from that river. Why? Because you need to leave enough water for other creatures to live on. So my point here is, I will be looking at the location, the company, of course, the location, and then I will look at the process. What is the process you are utilizing? Are you utilizing a process that will take care of your waste or no? Well, little bit of design about, little bit of discussion about the technical terms, process description, technologies. I will look also at the mass and energy balance, all of those little, stuff. The main thing I will look at is process upset conditions. What if you have a problem in your process? How are you going to mitigate it in a way that is not going to affect the environment? And again, the environment for me is actually 5 items. Let me remind us with it: humans, water, air, earth, and other living partners. We have 5 pillars built into my checklist. Let me call it this way. What is the emergency plan you have? I need to look at that. I need to know that you have a plan. Well, probably, again, the environmental impact assessment depends on what stage the project is in. Okay, so at this stage, maybe I don't, like as a project owner, I don't know much about my emergency plan, but at least I know the headlines. So let's remember that class 5 is very short environmental impact assessment. Class 4 is given more details all the way. I go all the way to class 1, which is the detailed one. It can be up to 300, 400 pages. But again, I need, in my environmental impact assessment, I need to mention, am I sticking to the standards? Do I know the standards? Okay, like, am I actually aware of the government standards related to my project? The last thing will be the recommendations. As a government, I need to review the environmental impact assessment and give recommendations to that company. Then the decision, it is approved in this location by this technology, by this company, wonderful, but that's it? Or do I need the company to repeat it again in 3-4 years from now? Very simple. If you can have it on one page as I wrote it here, and that's it. That is the checklist. Now, again, it depends on the stage of the project. Where are you at the project? Then I can give more details and descriptions. This is, by the way, what we call it in Canada, an act. So it is somehow an environmental law. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks very much, Essam. I think Essam built on everything that participants had said and added more, actually, which is very interesting as well. So I think that really gives a good full idea of what we need to look for in the EIA, let's say, if we were considering a gas processing facility. And I think one thing that I was waiting, I think one or two people said it, and Essam also touched on it, is the regulatory framework in place, the standards that are in place in the local context or country context. I think is important, and the process description. So what is the company planning to do, and understanding what they are proposing to do, I think is important. Another thing that I think Essam had highlighted, which was interesting, is the energy balance. So, your energy needs for the facility, and what are you going to do to ensure that you are meeting energy efficiency, let's say, in your production, in your process. And then the contingency plan, I didn't hear anyone mention this, so I'm glad that Essam mentioned it, is the contingency plan. But there was one thing that participants brought out, Essam, which is at the end, the decommissioning part of the project. Is this normally included already in the proposed project, like plans for decommissioning? Is that normally your experience?
This is what the decision has to tell me. The last part of the environmental impact assessment is the decision that comes from the government or the permitting authority, and I'm assuming it's the government everywhere. So do I need to repeat this EIA after, and when? For example, after 10 years from now, I have to do it. At that time, I will say, oh yeah, I have only 5 years more in this location and I'm out. Okay, you have to talk about how are you gonna relocate? How are you gonna move out of that location? Because remember, few years before you move to the second location, you have to apply for the EI again, the environmental impact assessment again, because let me remind myself and everybody that it is the EIA is attached to the location.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so okay. Yes, the plan can be done. Well, the EIA is a living document. It can be always asked for every certain period of time.
Okay. And then another thing that came out is the mitigation plans. So when you have an understanding of the process that the company is going to propose, understanding of the potential impacts, then you also then include what are the mitigation actions that you put. So like waste management.
That is Marisol and everybody, that is the process upset conditions. You identify the process upset conditions, and of course you have to give a solution for those. What you will do if so and so happen. Okay. And again, to the mass and energy balance, back again to that, it is already, it has to be calculated based on the upset conditions. So you cannot tell me when life is good, this is what I'm getting. Okay, that's wonderful. What if something goes right or left? You have to tell me that. So you have to have mass and energy balance for your normal and upset conditions, as well as the decommissioning conditions.
Okay. You're kind of in and out. Maybe it's my connection or your connection, Essam, but I think we got your message. And then also I'm looking at the chat as well, and there was also comments about, yes, I mean, like, you know, when you're assessing the EIA and you're looking at potential risks, then if it's too high, the risk, then you might start looking at a different location or a different project process altogether. So that's what somebody had included in the chat. Of course, the regulations, and then, yeah, like basically looking at regulations, enforcement, and environmental audit. So like in the decision, that's what Essam was saying, that you actually say what the permitting conditions will be. The permitting conditions will determine, like, you know, how often you have to do a site inspection, when the EIA has to be repeated, etc.
One more thing, please, Marisol, is the risk assessment plan is a different document. It is not in the EIA. Because so risk, sorry.
Go ahead.
So the risk assessment plan has to go side by side with the environmental impact assessment. But again, it's what I saw so far, it's a different document that expands on the upset conditions and expands, like you can have in your checklist, did you prepare a risk assessment plan? If yes, please attach it. Something like that will remind everybody that there is environmental impact assessment, there is risk assessment, there is also safety impact assessment. Okay, so we have, it's actually a collaborative process between more than one document. That's why it is very important to know who's actually reviewing those documents. Is it the government? Is it the bank? Because each one of them has a different goal and ultimately a different perspective. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Essam. And I also want to just welcome Anna Greta from the Norwegian Environment Agency, who also posted in the chat. So another point for consideration is, you know, when you're reviewing the EIA, do you feel that the proponent, the operator, has justified what best available technology is being used as part of the design? So this is, let's say, for the new project, if they have adequately justified the use of best available technology in the EIA. So I think also Essam has touched on that, in terms of, you know, understanding what process that they are proposing, and looking at what are the potential impacts and how to mitigate those potential impacts, and whether they are using the best available technology to reduce the impacts and ensure the energy balance is met, energy efficiency, and all the environmental considerations are met. Okay,
Yeah,
so Yes?
Yeah, I'm sorry. You know, there is a question in chat. There is
a
from
question.
Philip Pipe. Yeah, it is also my it's also my hint. You know, I would like also to know what is the difference between the classes and how do we add for each class? For instance, we have class A, B, C, D. How do we add for each class?
Okay, so I'll push it back to Essam and even Ana Greta, who is actually also very well versed in the EIA process. So how does one define the different EIA classes, and who defines this?
See, in Canada, the authority or the government defines which class they are looking for at which stage of the project. Okay, like for example, again, if it's a grassroots, a new project, then there are requirements. If it's a current project, but you have to modify it or maybe add to it or relocate it, then there is another procedure. Generally speaking, we ask for class 5, in case the project is still at the initiation phase. That means we identify the need for the project. Okay, I need to deal with my associated gas. Wonderful, I identified the problem. I don't need to go for a very detailed EIA at the beginning. At the beginning, I just do class 5, which is the way to look at it is like you are looking at the environmental concerns and environmental management plans from a 35,000 feet high. Okay, so you look at it in general. You try to capture all the headlines. Wonderful. Once this is approved, then you move to the second stage, which is class 4. You can jump between class 5 and class 3 and class 2 the way you want, because most of the time those classes are interchanged. They are coming together. But for the main one is class 5, class 3, and class 1. So you have 5, 3, and 1. Those are the major ones. The 5 is to approve the concept. The 3rd is to dig into more details about, as I said, the 5 major pillars. And then the 1 will be the detail. In that case, you review every and each number of the mass balance, of the energy balance, and you make sure that the standards are met, and you make sure that the demand is also met.
So I think we can go back to what Essam was saying, is that it's the government who defines these different classes, and it may differ across different countries on, you know, class A, B, or C, or 1, 2, or 3. It would really depend. I mean, you can also see in the chat how some other countries manage or what they include in their EIA or ESIA process.
Yes,
so it. Go ahead, Essam.
Yeah, now this is Guilherme Ventura from Angola.
Yes.
I just wanted to share also about the classes of environmental impact assessment. So in Angola, the regulation for environmental impact assessment also establishes actually 3 categories of environmental impact assessment. And that is based on the type of the project and the degree at which the project will make an impact to social community and also to the environment. So, and today actually, one thing that the new regulation also allow is actually to do a pre-assessment. Therefore, based on the result of the pre-assessment, then the government can say, you know, what type of the environmental impact assessment needed to be done. Meaning that it might be that the study is very simplified or something like that, or very detailed based on project and the degree at which that project can cause big impact to the social community and also to the environment.
This is just to share with you what we have in Angola today.
Thank you. Thanks very much. And just keep in mind, again, what SM is also saying, it's important to know at what stage of the project you're in. It will determine how in-depth your EIA will be and how kind of narrow in scope. So it really will depend, of course, on the project, the location, and the which part of the project, and of course the legal standards, the
technology
framework. Okay, so we're
so
nearing
the technology we use in the project. Sorry.
And yes. and the process, exactly, what is being actually proposed, like what process are they actually proposing? So that includes what technology they're planning to use. Thank you, SM.
Sure. Thank you.
So I think this is a really good first discussion for today. I would really like to make a round of applause to SM and all of our participants who have really contributed to a very interesting discussion. I was wondering how we would do this with more than 100 people in the room. So, it's a kind of an interesting experience for us, but I think it has worked, relatively well today. And I'm very appreciative that everyone took the time to do the exercise. And I hope the discussion helped enrich your own individual exercise and experience. So, we don't have time to hear everyone's outputs, but I hope listening to the discussion, it helps you understand better for your own analysis and enrich your own understanding. So with that, I think we will move to start to wrap up for the afternoon. What we would like to do is just have a daily reflection. So this is a chance for everyone to help post and share with us your thoughts on what you've learned today. So this is what I'm going to share my screen again. And I just want you to, hold on, share screen. Do you see my screen?
Yes, you are sharing.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Great. So just to reflect individually, what are some of your top key learnings for today? What are some of the top lessons that you learned, something new that you learned today? And then you can start to think about, okay, what are the challenges that you are facing with regards to oil and gas operations, and especially related to oil and gas, gas processing and treatment. And what are some of the efforts that are being undertaken to address these challenges?